Just over 6 months have passed since the future anchors of the task forces first came together. 4 task forces were formed to mobilize partners to identify solutions and levers to close the gaps in sanitation by focusing on technology, finance, gender, and behavior change communication. During this period, task forces have been meeting, strategizing, and aspiring to align efforts to engage and educate, but never replicate. Pursued by the agents of Tasra, they came together to learn from one another on the 7th of September.
Urban sanitation is a little more complex subject than very conventional any problem that confronts society. So we need technology, we need finance, we need behavior change communication, and equally important is to bring in equity, particularly gender equity into this. So bringing these task forces and ensuring that there is a free flow of thought process between these task forces and coming up with a common agenda.
There are many facets to sanitation. In that sense, compared to most other infrastructure sectors, sanitation is a far more complex subject, and therefore a variety of activities are needed or variety of support is needed to really make sanitation happen and to sustain it. So these different things, technology, which is generally the engineer's domain, finance, which is thought of as the financiers coming in, behavior change, which is generally not there in most infrastructure sectors, but which is crucial in this sector, and the women in sanitation play a great role. So in that sense, the gender issues are very, very important.
One thing that I believe is going to be critical for us in the future is going to be really supporting the other 3 task forces. While going through the program that they have for the near future, I realized that without the use of BCC or SBCC, as we call it, social and behavior change communication, I do not see their activities really delivering the outcomes that they intend to or want from those particular initiatives.
Lack of access to toilets and to other infrastructure, sanitation infrastructure, is felt by a lot of people, including the marginalized. And when we say marginalized, it is the women's group, it's also the transgenders who are not even considered or counted anywhere in the statistics.
Under the Tech Troopers, we are looking at coming up with simple technology guide, a guide for as FSM dummies for any practitioner to understand the FSM technology. We are also looking at different standard operating procedures, coming up with manuals, and finally we are also looking at something beyond FSM, looking at grey water management issues.
So our primary objective of existence as the Behavior Change Communication Task Force is to bring strategic thinking to the way communications is done on urban sanitation across India.
Key objective of our group is to look at innovative financing options in a way to finance sanitation sector at scale, and the main theme is to work with the partners, not in silos.
The Gender Task Force, which I also represent, is looking at how marginalized communities should be targeted and access to women and transgenders can be facilitated.
There is a huge issue on grey water, and a discussion paper, case studies on technologies, how they should be assessed, what are the cost-effective methods, business models. Discussion paper on that is also going to come up. Another one would be also coming up with the standing operating systems for labs, and we've had some of those engagements, and some of them are upcoming.
One of the outputs that the task force is currently working on is a comprehensive mapping of potential communication interventions across the sanitation value chain. What we realized as a task force is that a lot of narrative around behavior change communication on sanitation is focused on driving usage and adoption of toilets.
One key area that we want to look at is to understand what are the financing requirements under different scenarios, and based on that then assess what is the public finance, what are the requirements again, what are the institutional arrangements, current priorities within the budget process of national government, state government and city governments on financing these activities.
How do we include gender in grant making? How the donors, investors should perceive a project with a gender lens, and how do they make the grants accordingly?
How do you compare a network system versus non-network systems? What are the life cycle costs? How do we pitch this investment decisions to policymakers? So the Tech Task Force identified some of these as the future work program. May the task force be with you.
May the task force be with you.
So may the task force be with you.
The task force will be with you.
May the task force be with you.
May the task force be with you.
So may the task force be with you, and may all the task forces together be with you.
May the task force live and prosper.
Thank you all so much. This video doesn't need any explanation. This is to celebrate all of you and all the excellent work that the task forces have geared up to do. It was our attempt to summarize some of the discussions that have taken place from yesterday to today and some of the outputs that all of us are looking to work towards. I would now like to call upon the Yoda behind the work of all these task forces. We know who that is. Can we have a round of applause for Madhu? I would request her to perhaps briefly speak about the journey of these task forces. Of course, this was incepted a while ago, what actually took us there, and what are our aspirations and expectations to move forward with this. Thank you.
My line should be actually The Empire Strikes Back, but I'm going to not call myself the Empire or the Foundation. The task forces are important. I don't think we have to say that after we saw this amazing video, and I'm actually quite angry with Dasra for putting me on the spot after such an amazing video. But anyway, we thought of these task forces about 2 years ago. And the reason for this was really to bring people together. There were so many technical issues that no one brain could cope with all of that we've heard today. And actually today is only confirmed for us, these task forces are going to be the force, because there is so much complexity in the work that we do. Even with the debate, we heard all of the issues around the gray water. If we have an FSTP solution, we don't have a complete solution. If we have STPs, how do we make them work well for us? Which is the right solution? 40% of the people, as Alkesh reminded me today, 40% of the people in this room believe in the STPs. And how are we going to deal with them? And they exist, and they will continue to exist, as also we were reminded. So there are so many issues. How do you integrate gender across? We heard on the first day, on the 6th, that it's so important to map it across the sanitation value chain. It can't be actually a separate task force. Gender has to be mainstreamed into all of the task forces. And we heard from Ankur very rightly, if we don't know how to communicate our work, then we're not going to move very far, especially when we don't communicate with our communities well. So not only are each individual task forces dealing with the complexity of issues of financing, of raising public bonds, how do you find the finance, how do you unlock the public finance that's there, and all of the technology issues that we know that we have to solve at every step of the sanitation value chain, household containment, emptying, how can you give back water on site without having to transport it, on transportation, what kind of trucks, what kind of transportation reach the most marginalized, the most dense populated areas, and in treatment, what kinds of technologies will actually work once we have them on the ground. So much work needs to be done, standards, regulatory authorities. There's such a plethora of issues that we are all coping with here, and we can't all do it in our silos. If we do it, we'll be here forever. If we do it together, we might get there much faster. So I can't emphasize enough how much we believe in these task forces, how much we believe in these partnerships. And yesterday was particularly heartening for us at the foundation because we saw these long conversations happening when the task forces met yesterday. around grappling with a lot of the issues that they've been working on individually and meeting frequently. Nobody wanted to finish yesterday. That was amazing. And the other interesting session that Dasra put together for us was the convergence issue, having task forces sit together and decide how they were actually going to work together. And I think that's the next phase that we have to do and build on. Because we've created these task forces and they seem to be working well. We have a good cohort of people. They're not set in stone, so please feel welcome to invite others that you believe today. If you've met people that you think should be valuable additions to your task force, please feel free to invite them. Gender has already reached out from beyond the BMGF network, so there's nothing that prevents you. There are resources available for you to use, to do studies, to do some research, so please tap into those resources. All I can say is they are task-based, so it does require a significant contribution of your time from your daily jobs. It does require voluntary contributions of skills, of resources, and the most precious is that they're deadline-based. If anybody knows me, they know I'm deadline-based. So we know that we have task forces that are working now. I don't want to stop between me and the next very exciting section on the septic shark tank, when these task forces will actually present their innovative ideas. But for us, this is key. If we are going to make any progress, it has to come out of the work that we collaboratively do, that these task forces converge, work together. We started with 3, with finance, with technology and behavior change, and we, the foundation, then added gender because it's such an important task force, and one that we hope to mainstream now into the work of everyone else. So just with that, we look forward to the next section. If there are people who haven't really gone on to the concept of task force, Dasra can help you understand what those task forces are, who constitutes them, how regularly they meet, and what their objectives are. But all of that information should be available also on the India Wash network and also individual task force members. Yes? Okay. Sakshi, you have something? Okay. Thank you.